This is take 5 of this video. I'm not going to explain the hell I've been going to trying to record the audio for this video. If it doesn't work this time, I will literally cut my own balls off and stomp on them. Uh, with that out of the way, I'm talking about issue number 31 of Sonic IDW. And yes, I do have a new microphone. Let's see if it's any better while I'm editing it. So it's going to be primarily, I'm going to be talking about issue 31. I'm going to dip back into issue 30 a little bit, though, because there's some content in issue 30 that is important for building context for the story that happens in issue 31. With all that out of the way, I'm going to start with the cover art. Now, here's the cover art for issue 31. And completely unrelated, here's the cover art for Sonic Universe issue 60. Also, the variant cover for it. That's completely unrelated, and nobody should draw any inferences as to what I'm hinting at by looking at that. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the actual art within the issue of the comic. So, particularly, I think that they might be using 3D assets. This particular artist might be using 3D assets for some of the stuff that's happening in this comic. I don't think all of it, but I feel like some of it is 3D assets, possibly even 3D renders disguised as drawing, sort of. Particularly, I want to draw attention to this page right here. The top left-hand panel and the bottom left-hand panel in particular stand out to me the most. If you look real quick at the way Shadow is posing in the bottom left panel and the top panel, he's extremely stiff and like flat looking. It looks like a 3D render that was either A, traced over, or B, they used rendering software and took like the 3D image and then like sort of like shell shading, I guess you could say. I can't prove it. It's like I'm looking at it. It doesn't look right to me. It doesn't look like that the artist actually like drew that offhand. It looks like they may have traced over a 3D asset. It's mainly because the proportions are like perfect. They're perfect, like as if you're looking at like an actual in-game model almost. And that's why I think it might be 3D assets. I can't say with 100% certainty. And drawing the attention to the top left-hand panel, the art is very flat, as I stated before. And part of this is because the artist didn't really put any highlights on this. They did some shading. Like you could see on Shadow's muzzle and on the bottom of his gloves, there's shading, but they didn't do any real like highlights. You could see some highlights on the gloves and on like the golden ring, but they didn't do any on his like fur. And it's kind of like really bad that they didn't put any highlights on his fur, because the shade of black they used for his fur color is the same shade of black used for the line work. And so what happens when you do that is the lines just disappear. If you zoom in on this, if you actually have the issue and you zoom in, you could see the line where the ear is separated from the head, and I've circled the ear, but they kind of left it like it's just like it's just flat because there's no highlights. I just don't know how to like put it into like any like simpler terms. It's really flat. Uh, Case in point, real quick, I'll have a couple examples. Here's a example from of Shadow from Archie Sonic. You can see here on this particular panel, they used a dark black, but the artist went in and they added edge highlights on his ears. So it looks like the light is coming and reflecting off of the tips of his ears, and it makes his ears stand out from the rest of his head. Another example, real quick, of maybe not edge highlighting necessarily, but it's still crucial for trying to make the image look like it's got more depth. But here's a pic, and also I'm doing this because I want to be in good faith and not make it seem like I'm cherry picking Archie Sonic to prop it up against IDW. But if you look right here on this panel, I pulled from issue 19 of IDW Sonic. You could see how the artist didn't use like jet black for his fur, and instead used a blue black or a shade of gray to convey essentially black fur. And because of this, his ear stands out. His where his spine, that top spine connects to the top of his skull, also stands out. You could see where the defining lines are, and there is some highlights here. There's highlights, and there's also shading. Even though I'm not gonna lie, this does not. I'm not gonna tear this apart. There's shading and shadowing that helps add depth, as well as the fact that they didn't use the same shade of black for the line work as they did for his fur. And then just to like really like kind of highlight what I'm talking about too, no pun intended, I mocked up this picture of Shadow with edge highlights on his ears and a little bit on his forehead. Thank you, Cordella, for the feedback on this. But you could see the like how like his brow and the way his head separates from his ears looks. And it adds depth. It's not perfect. I'm not trying to say I'm like a better artist. I'm just trying to show and demonstrate how some edge highlights can go a long way in trying to help define shapes, because that's what this is lacking most of all, is there's no like definition of the shapes. And again, I don't know if I'm probably completely off base for saying this, but I think they use 3D assets. I can't prove it. I'm just going off of what I think is going on. And now I'm going to move on to some story bits here. Particularly, we're going to talk about Sonic's amnesia arc, and also Sonic's friend's lack of reverence for his death, essentially. So, to rewind, going back into issue 30, real quick. So, Sonic's friends think he's dead, or disappeared in issue 30. And I want you to put a pin on that because it could be important for later. But basically, they think he's dead and all that stuff. And then they cut to Blaze in the Soul Dimension, and she's talking to her creepy little butler man who's got soulless black eyes. And suddenly Sonic falls out of the sky, and that's where the issue ends. And issue 31 picks up with Sonic talking to Blaze. And basically, they're talking about how he's got amnesia. Blaze is trying to explain to Sonic who he is, but instead of referring to Sonic as you, she refers to Sonic as he, like as if she's talking about a completely separate person. Um, but more important than all of that is Sonic. This is just straight up. I'm gonna say it right now. Um, this is like Sonic is basically flirting with Blaze right now. That's what this looks like. I'm not gonna mince my words on this. But the all of these facial expressions and all that, they just look like to me like he's like flirting with Blaze, which, you know what, for all of the people who ship Sonic and Blaze, good for you guys. Shout out to Perp. but um, but I have a problem with it, and it's not like the ship part. I don't care about that because it's not relevant. What is relevant is it doesn't feel like a character who has amnesia. Usually, when a character has amnesia, they will act lost and confused a bit. They sometimes they might be like in distress about the amnesia. Maybe sometimes they're indifferent because they don't know any better. And usually that's because you're having some kind of identity crisis. Like, literally, you can't remember who you are. But Sonic's just like, I don't know, it's like Gooner Brain turned on, and he's now flirting with the pretty cat lady that's talking to him right now. Because that's what it looks like. And maybe that's the intent. I can't tell. Though, it doesn't feel like a character who's got amnesia, though. That's my gripe with this. It feels like a character... It just kind of feels like Sonic didn't change in a weird way. I don't know how to, like, say it. He's not acting, like, completely different from what he usually is. Usually Sonic is this, like, friendly guy who gets along with people and stuff. And, in this, he just kind of... It's like, he's got amnesia, so why isn't he, like, presented as a character who's got amnesia? Like, why is he not presented as a guy who's, like, he can't remember who he is? And that's kind of like where my gripe is with it. It's just kind of lacking that, there's no, like, urgency for him to try to remember who he is. They don't even have a scenario down here where Sonic could be, like, possibly in conflict with Blaze. Like, Blaze is trying to consult with him, but Sonic's, like, panicked because he doesn't know who she is. So he thinks maybe she's a hostile. Maybe she's the reason why he can't remember anything. They don't do anything with Sonic having amnesia. They just have him sitting there, and he's got a gooner face on, and that's it. It's like, where's the drama? Where is it, guys? Oh no, Sonic can't remember who he is. Oh no, too bad he's having tea with Blaze. Why is Sonic sitting down and fucking drinking tea? Guys, it's a goddamn action comic. Have some fucking action. And now I'm going to circle back to the real meat of issue 31. And that is everybody coping with Sonic not being there. And basically, to go back to what I was talking to earlier about how Sonic's friends all think he's dead and stuff, it feels like they're very quick to just accept the fact that Sonic's not in their lives anymore. I mean, like, they're kind of like, Tails and Amy, they do kind of have this whole thing where, Tails is like, maybe we can find him, or Amy's like, you know, oh no, Sonic's gone, you know, stop bothering me, Tails. And then issue 31, though, it's like they don't care. Like, they do care. Amy's complaining about Sonic not being there. She thinks she's got to run the whole Resistance by herself. In comes Jewel the Beetle. No, you don't have to. No, girlfriend, you don't have to run this Resistance all by yourself. It's like, Yeah, that was the worst thing about Sonic disappearing, guys, was it wasn't the fact that your friend is vanished and probably in danger or something. The worst thing is that now you have one less set of hands to help you out with the chores. That's what Amy's concern is. Um and everybody's just totally cool, like cool with the fact that their friend is like missing for some reason, right? Look, there's even like everyone's just celebrate. They're celebrating because the Zombots are gone, which is yeah, that's reason to celebrate. But like these particular characters, um, like they literally just lost a friend. They don't know where he is, and they're not out looking for him. They're just kind of like, oh, let's all have fun, guys. Let's just move on with our lives. Like everyone's just real quick to move on with their lives. It's really weird and stupid. There's two things they could have done. One, they could have maybe had the characters. Maybe they were allowed to present the characters as being mournful of Sonic's loss because maybe this was some of Sega's like intervention. Can't have negative feelings, right? Fine, fair enough. Maybe that's why they didn't do it. But then why not just stick with Sonic's perspective? Sonic having amnesia is more interesting than everybody just trying to move on with their lives. It feels like a total tone disconnect, essentially. Why not? Here's what they could have done. In my opinion, what they should have done was instead of cutting back to Sonic's friends for most of this issue and watching them cope with their friend not being there and how life is so great because their friend is not there now. Maybe they could have instead stuck with like Sonic for the entirety of this issue. He's in Blaze's dimension now, right? And then maybe from there you build conflict. Sonic can't remember who he is. He's in a strange place that he actually has less knowledge of than his home world. So even if he had his memories, like I would assume Sonic doesn't know his way around the soul dimension that well. So and now there's this purple lady who is chasing him around. And he doesn't understand who she is. He doesn't know who she is. So now he's trying to run from her. And Blaze is just like concerned about her friends, so that's why she's chasing him. And maybe she's got guards or something like that. Maybe you introduce some like, oh, she's got the royal guards, and like they're like some of her best fighters, and maybe they're guys who can keep up with her in combat or something like that, right? And so to Sonic, it looks like some fucking assholes are out to get him. But in reality, it's like, no, we're trying to help you, but he won't listen because he's confused, right? Because he's got amnesia. That's not what we got. We got a tea party, and then we got everybody dancing and laughing after their friend died or disappeared. Just a total tonal disconnect. It's like, I guess, again, it's possible that it's because Sega doesn't want these characters to be presented in a manner that is like negative or like they're having negative emotions, but and if that's the case, I don't agree with their methodology, but as I said it before, find workarounds. There's workarounds you can do, and it could still keep things interesting. I think like this idea that the rules make it impossible to make the comic books good is asinine when you consider that you could just find ways to navigate things and keep a narrative that draws attention to itself. I think that's all I have to say about this. Hopefully it's been recording this whole time. If not, I will tear out my esophagus. You all have a wonderful day. Take care.